one of windsurf schools there. He teaches windsurfing, not only kite surfing, sailing sports. What I like about it, the climate, this is the first thing. It's hot there, I should say, but when the heat gets to be unbearable for me, I always move to Russia for some summertime, for some summer months like now. It is cheap life there, and it's the best place for kids to grow up, the kids there. As I have a daughter, she spends a lot of time on the beach, she swims a lot, and the beach it is like a home for her. So, and really this place is home for me now, because I've been living there for nearly 10 or 11 years already. Well, when I come to Russia, what I feel, it's a kind of culture shock, but it's not, it's reverse culture shock, you know. So I'm feeling an alien in my own country. Can you imagine that?
Okay, well, we'll get back to the whole culture shock in a bit, but that's a very good point that you bring up. But you would say,
but yeah, it's not real culture shock, because I'm not a foreigner in Russia, you know, but I feel reverse culture shock.
Right, right. That's definitely a valid term, reverse culture shock. It's a very common thing for people to have. Okay, maybe let's get Lyoka. What about you? What do you think the advantages of living abroad are? Because you've been abroad. Well, I don't know. Is Crimea really abroad?
Well, I think
so much, right?
Living abroad clever, wiser. It makes your horizons wider, and you see and you understand a lot of things that you were not able to understand before you moved to another place. And living abroad can really change you. Well, it can change you in a positive and a negative way as well, but depends on the person. And if this person chooses to change himself to the positive way, in a positive way, it can be done, surely. And that's really good. And of course, there are a lot of like myths about living abroad. And when you go there and you practice it, you just like развеивать. How should I say it in English? I don't know.
In which context? Just you
развеивать миф.
You kind of not unprove, but you just kind of come to terms, break these myths, or you know, come to grips with the myths. You kind of understand what's real and what's not.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you get what I want to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very good point. I mean, I would say that living abroad really does open your eyes to the way that the world is, you know, and how different things are. And you get to meet all different kinds of people and really just understand the way that everything is so much better. You know, you can learn a new language, you can learn a new culture, learn new ways of eating, of entertainment, all these different things. And I think that it just opens your world so much, you know, because there's so many people that have never left their hometown, never left their, zip code, index code, or something like that. But people who do live abroad, who get out and see these things, they have such a better understanding, not only of the new place that they live, but also the places where they came from. So I think that's a huge advantage too. It's to be able to compare and to see these differences and just to understand yourself better through your environment. I don't know. But what about disadvantages? Maybe let's talk a bit about these disadvantages. Maybe Lyoka and then Yana, what kind of disadvantages do you see about living abroad? What do you think, Lyoka?
Well, loneliness. I think loneliness, and you feel a lot of time you can feel lonely because there are no friends, or not so much friends, so many friends as you have in your native town, in your native place. And sometimes you don't feel safe because you are not protected by like government, as you are just a tourist, or if you live there without any, I mean, social stuff, you know. I think you know what I mean. For example, when I lived there as a tourist, and so I didn't have any rights. So if something happened to me, then it would have been a problem, really.
Are you talking about things like health insurance, or
yeah, anything about robbery or anything that can happen to you abroad? So, and there is no one to protect you, actually. So you can call the police, of course, but local police will always take the not the part, take the side of the local person.
Okay. So a bit of corruption there, you would say, maybe. What do you think? You think that maybe there's discrimination against foreigners?
Maybe. Yeah, but it's not only in Egypt. It's very common in Thailand, for example. You never should have a conflict with the local, with the Thai people, because if they turn to police always of Thai people, even if they're not right.
Okay, well that's definitely a problem. What do you think, Yana? What do you think the disadvantages are living abroad? I mean, you definitely seem very positive. You say that it's a great opportunity. Your daughter loves the beach, but what about disadvantages? Do you see any there where you are in Egypt?
Well, there are some, and I would agree with Lyoka when she was talking about loneliness. It's not exactly like that, but I feel lack of communication with my close friends that live in Russia. Despite I call my mom quite often, I talk on Skype with my best friend every day, and I quite often communicate with some other friends, but it's not that as if when you talk to them live. Okay, so, and sometimes, yeah, I feel myself isolated there without my close friends. Well, and other than that, for me, I can't fully understand local people sometimes. You know, they're very slow, I would say. For example, when you're when you're sitting in a cafe and you're waiting for your food, they promise you it will be very soon, like 10-15 minutes there, but they're dishonest. You will wait 3 or 4 times more longer than they say. So probably it relates to clash of diversity, I don't know. So
maybe just cultural differences, very distinct cultural differences.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm from the States, I'm from the US, and I've lived both in Russia and now in Croatia. And I can say that when I was in Russia, I never really had any serious problems. Yes, from time to time, there were the sort of usual issues with bureaucracy, but they were the same problems that all of my local friends had. So I never felt like it was something strange. I felt like it was something normal, and I felt, you know, I felt okay because it was normal to have to wait, you know, for the traffic police to get your car registered or something like that. And I don't know about that, but here in Croatia, I would say it's a very different sort of situation, and disadvantage wise, it's really the cultural differences, I would say, are the strongest disadvantages, at least for me. I mean, it's maybe little things like service culture or just the way that people treat foreigners. I mean, it's very distinct, I would say, that sort of feeling that you have when you belong somewhere, you feel like you belong somewhere, or you feel like you don't. And for me, it's that feeling that you don't really belong, or that people really don't want you. And I think that maybe Egypt, where both of you girls have lived, in Croatia, they're kind of similar in that they're very strong tourist economies. And when you have a tourist economy, I would say it's a very different sort of expat lifestyle, because I mean, in a place like, say, the US, if people go live abroad in the US, or people go live abroad in the UK or Russia even, you know, when people go there, they usually will find jobs, and they kind of have to integrate into the society, and it's completely normal. Yes, the person, you'll know where the person comes from, and it's kind of an interesting detail, but still it's understood that they're here, and you know, they're now part of this life. Whereas if you take a tourist economy, you've got a bit of a different situation, because automatically the assumption is if someone is foreign, someone is, I think, a tourist. And yes, maybe over time there's more of an acceptance of that person, but I don't know. What do you think, Yana? Do you think that that's true? Do you think that, because you're clearly there in Egypt, except for when you go back when it gets hot, do you think that maybe that is a disadvantage? Do people see you always as kind of like a tourist, or do you think they see you as a local because you've been there for so long now?
Well, it's quite a tough question. I don't know. I guess that local people treat me not as a tourist, because I don't know how they understand that I've been living there for a long time, for a long while, and they see it. Probably they see it how I try to get a low price, a real price for some stuff. Maybe they understand. I don't know. And they see when you're a tourist, they see it also. They understand that because, I don't know, so local people, expats, they differ from tourists. And local people understand that.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's good. I mean, I think that where I live, I don't seem to have that problem. But for example, if we'll go to maybe a different area where there are lots of tourists, this happened maybe a couple of weeks ago, we went, and it's a very popular tourist destination for all different kinds of people. And it was just driving me nuts because people were speaking to us in German. And I mean, it was just so strange why people would be speaking in German, because we're clearly not German, we're clearly not tourists, but it's just so common for them to automatically assume that anyone different is just a tourist. And I don't know, for me, that's something that's kind of strange, needless to say. Ljoka, are you with us? Did you reconnect, or what happened there?
I'm sorry, you know, I've got problems with internet, so the connection
some problems. Okay, well, that does happen from time to
interrupts
time.
some people because I'm not good at
I don't know, something I think wrong with our connection, or everything is okay. I can't understand because it's like lost or something like
Yeah,
that.
the same with me. The connection breaks sometimes.
Okay. All right, well, I'm more or less okay. I can hear you. All right, but maybe let's go back. Remember, Yana, you mentioned culture shock and reverse culture shock. How would you define both culture shock and then reverse culture shock? What exactly is it? Let's go Yana and then Ljoka and then...
Well, they're different. Culture shock when you come to a foreign country, firstly, and you try to connect to the people, to the local people. You try to integrate there, to immerse yourself into a local society. That's it. And reverse culture shock for me, it's when I come to Russia, being a native Russian person, and I feel myself an alien there. So and I can't connect to that with those people living there. So I get stressed there when I come down to the underground. It's I feel myself, well, I don't know, I get stressed there. Even not speaking about underground, using another transportation, and big city, all that stuff makes me get stressed. So I feel a bit disorientated in Russia.
Okay, and what about in Egypt? Do you feel the same way, or are you completely kind of adjusted and adapted now? What would you say?
Sure, I feel myself like at home there. Can you imagine? I've been living there for 10 years, so it's a real home for me.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. Okay, Lyoka, what about you? Culture shock, reverse culture shock. How do you define it? How have you experienced it? Lyoka, are you there? Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe connection problems. Okay, well, I guess I can talk a bit about culture shock. Come in, Lyoka, if you joined, but come back and say something if you come back. But culture shock, I don't know. I mean, how do you define it? It's something that's just very different than what you're used to from the culture you come from. Oh, are you there, Lyoka?
Does my interrupt?
Oh, okay.
Oh, seems my connection is so poor that you.
Yana, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm still here, and I have something to add.
Okay.
Well, I didn't mention the weather. When I come to Russia, another side of reverse culture shock, it is the weather, because in Egypt it's hot and warm, and when coming to Russia, I always get cold there. So I have to wear a lot of warm clothes, which is weird for me. I didn't get used to that living in Egypt. And other than that, people, they're different. They differ what I used to communicate in Egypt, and in Russia they are different. So in Egypt they're calm, friendly, and peaceful, and in Russia they are I don't know how to define that, probably egotistical and nervous, kind of that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess I understand what you mean. I mean, I think you also have very different lifestyles, right? I mean,
Yeah,
are you talking about
exactly.
Russia like Moscow or?
Different lifestyles, exactly.
Yeah.
And Moscow is a megalopolis. I'm not sure if
Megapolis, huge city.
Yeah. And in Egypt, I live in a village. So it's already makes me get stressed when coming to Russia.
Yeah, I understand. I think that's a really important thing too, just like this sort of communication between people. That's a really kind of big cultural shock. I mean, for me, all right, you know, in the US, people smile and say, hey, how are you doing? And this sort of thing. And very, I don't know, like they're not really interested. You say it to strangers, hey, good morning, or something like that. Whereas in Russia, you don't say hello, good morning to people you don't know. Even the people who live in your building.
Yeah, they're not friendly at all.
Yeah, but you don't, you know, if you don't know your neighbors or anything like that. And so I kind of got used to that. I mean, I would never say hello to someone I saw in the lift, the elevator in my building in Moscow. I would never even think to do that unless I actually knew that person. But even then, there was a time when I lived in the same building as a friend and we never actually saw each other. So we never said hello. But here in Croatia, people say hello and good morning all the time. And for me, that was a big culture shock. At first, I thought, oh, how nice, how friendly people are. But then over time, I was thinking, no, you know what? It's kind of strange because why should I say hello to people I don't know? I don't even know who these people are. So I don't know. It's like one of those kind of culture shock moments. And I think maybe, you know, over time, you compare the sort of differences in communication, you adapt, and, you know, it's just one of those things. It's life, and that's the way it is. So let's see.
People are gloomy in Russia.
Tanya, are you
the right word for them?
Yeah, Tanya, are you there?
Yes, I am here, but unfortunately I should leave in 3 minutes. So I'll just leave this like window for connection, and you'll finish. Then you finish.
Okay, because Lyoka's having these connection problems, and all right, so Tanya's going to be leaving shortly, and everything is more or less okay. But now
but maybe, you know, I wanted to suggest, предположить that maybe we could make the same theme next time, because I think it's very huge theme.
It's
yeah,
day today.
Yeah. And you know, today so many people would like to come, but I don't know, something goes wrong. Very hot.
It's Thursday. It's
yeah, for somebody it's very hot and feel sick and everything. So girls, see you next time. I hope. Bye.
Okay.
So I'm just.
Thank you, Tanya, for your help. I won't manage it without you.
Ow, it was very easy. So, and I'm happy to help, and I know now how to make it.
Okay.
So there are some advantages.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Alyoka, are you back then? You're working? Your connection's okay now?
I believe so, but I'm not sure. Do you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you perfectly. Yana, you can hear Alyoka okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right.
Fine.
All right, now let's maybe then get to this next question. All right. Do you think it's a good idea to live in a country where you don't know the language? What do you think? Let's maybe go Alyoka and then Yana.
Well, it's a good idea to live abroad in any country, as I consider this experience was one of the most important for me in life, and of course it makes it much easier when you can speak to the people in their own language. And for example, when I lived in Egypt, I learned Arabic language. When I spent 2 months in Indonesia, I started to learn Bahasa. When I didn't learn Tana, like one island to go to learn it, just to spend some weeks there. But in general, I think if you're planning to spend half a year in one place, you should